Hello everyone. So I've come on today to do something a little bit different, and I am using voiceover rather than the normal way that I do it. The reason I'm doing it this way is that I'm using a new software and struggling to learn some of the various different media bits that you can do. I'm not very good at this. But anyway, so what I decided to do today was some wet felting. And it's something that I've done in the past, but I haven't done it for quite a while now. And I just thought I'd have a go and make a journal cover. So what I'm showing here is just the basic tools that you need to be able to do some wet felting. What I have is a plastic cover over the table. Then I have to keep the table dry because it can get a bit messy with using mortar. Then I have a towel and some bubble wrap. So the bubble wrap that I have there is recycled bubble wrap, but you can use any. Some people use, more often in fact, you'd see people who do wet felting frequently, they would likely to be using something like a bamboo placemat, but I don't have one, so I'm going to use 2 pieces of bubble wrap there that you can see, and here I have a piece of tubing, a polystyrene or something. Well, I don't know if it's polystyrene, but it's it's a plastic tubing that you can buy from a hardware shop. I have some longer lengths somewhere, but I couldn't find them, so I'm just using this little piece. It should be fine. So those are the basic things, and then you also want a bowl of hot water with some soap and a sponge. And so those are the basic tools that you need to get started. Here I'm just showing you a piece of wet felting that I've done in the past with this. I think it was with the school, and I was showing some of the older crafts that we used to do, and I think there's a weaver there. So that's just an old piece that I thought I would show you. It's a nicely felted piece actually, even though I probably don't have a use for it now, but it is nicely felted, and using a nice roving merino wool, I guess, I'm guessing. And there's another one. This one is really well felted, and I think I probably had in mind making a little purse or something like that, but I never finished the project off. That inside bit that you can see there isn't so great, but you can cover that up. But yeah, that's a nicely felted piece, really well felted, and nice shape as well. So those are just 2 things that I've done in the past. I have done other things, and I have previously made needle felted projects, and here I'm showing a little fox that I needle felted, and some other little animals that I made for my granddaughter. And that was fun as well. I used to hold classes and things like that for doing that, but today I'm just sticking to the wet felting to start with anyway. Oh, and here's a little bear that I made as well. Love him. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do, and I'm lucky in that I have a fair bit of wool that I can use for different projects. I just haven't done any for some time now, and I thought, well, I'd like to make a journal cover, and I thought, well, why not use some of my felt? So there are a few types of wools, different wools that you can use, and this one is merino wool here, this green piece. And this is what you would likely buy in the shop. It's very, very soft. If you were going to buy some, this is probably what you would get. if you were going to get from a place that sells this sort of wool for either spinning or for wet felting or something like that, if you're going to go to Hobbycraft with those little packs that you can get, I don't know if you've seen them, tends to be a bit rougher. It's not certainly not merino as far as I can tell. It's quite crackly. But yeah, I'm just showing you some pieces there that I have. So merino wool is really easy to felt with. It felts beautifully, and you can buy it from various shops if you wanted to have a go. And but it isn't cheap either, so you build up your supplies over time. And then I'm going to show you here some wool that is, so there's a piece there, there's the creamy coloured wool, that is Manx wool, and it's attached to a piece of soy wool. So soy is a sheep that was from the island of Soy in Scotland, and it's an ancient breed. They look more like goats than sheep. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're quite attractive looking sheep, and they don't need shearing because they shed their wool and it falls to the ground naturally. So what I did, I have a friend who has a farm, and I used to go and get the wool off the floor, off the ground, and then I would wash it, and sometimes I carded it, sometimes I didn't. Carding is when you smooth it out and you make what they call rollags, and it's basically just smoothing out. That's the carder that you'd use. You use two of those, and you're basically combing it so it pulls the threads through and makes them smoother and softer. But I haven't done that with this piece here that you can see, but it has been washed, I can see. This is Manx wool. And again, so these are raw wools. They haven't been processed, unlike merino wool. Haven't been carded. So these are the little bits of wool that I decided to work with today. So I'm going to use some natural wool that hasn't been processed. I'll show you it in a minute. It's sort of a creamy coloured wool, and then those golden pieces there I'm going to be adding to the project as well, because I really like them. And there's some little bits of just different colours that I'm going to add to the cream coloured sheep's wool that I'm going to use. So the sheep's wool that I'm about to show you has not been, and nothing has been done to it. It's basically been packaged up by Sheep Farmer and sold off into bags. And you can buy it quite cheaply, but it does need washing. It has lanolin, it's thick with lanolin, and it has a sheepy smell to it. And there we go, you can see it there. And it hasn't been washed, so it's full of little bits of, debris from natural debris. So there's little bits of sticks and old grass and all sorts of things that you'll find in there. As I said, it hasn't been washed and it hasn't been processed in any way. But I am going to use it for this project. It's fine. The smell of lanolin has gone. Well, no, not the smell, but the touch of lanolin. You can still smell it, but it's not sticky, or it doesn't have that sort of feel of lanolin in it anymore. So I'm just selecting some pieces there to use, and I'm going to lay them down in one direction vertically across the I'm going to lay them across the bubble wrap here any minute, and lay them in one direction. So when you're using merino wool that you've bought from the shop, it will be smoothed out for you. It will have been carded and it will be nice and smooth, and you can pull it off in smooth sort of pieces to lay down on your whatever you're using, will bubble wrap or something else. I don't have the luxury of that because I'm using unprocessed sheep's wool, so it will come out looking a little bit clunky. But I was just showing you some pink wool there. That is from Hobbycraft, I believe. But it's nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not as nice as the merino. There's some merino wool, beautiful wool. So anyway, so as I said, I'm going to be using the unprocessed sheep's wool, and I'm going to be laying it down, and you'll see it. So I can't remember if I lay it horizontally or vertically, but anyway, I lay it down in one direction, and you'll see that in a minute. It's a really nice process, but it can get a little bit messy, so you do need a space to be able to do this, and somewhere where you can get the table wet without it, or at least where it doesn't get your things wet. So there I am, just laying down some pieces, and the other thing to do is when you lay down a piece, when you lay the next piece on top, just sort of overlap it slightly so that they're touching, so that their fibres can, when you're going through the felting process, the fibres can touch each other and they'll meld together. So I'm just laying it in one direction at the moment, trying to pull it out. As I said, it's a bit clunky because it hasn't been carded. I could have carded it this morning rather, but I didn't. I just wanted to get on with the project, and I didn't want to go through all of that. So anyway, so I'm laying it down. As I said, it would be easier for you if you're using merino wool that you've bought from a shop, because you can easily separate the fibres in a nice even way, whereas this, as you can see, it's a bit lumpy. I do try and pull them out a little bit so that I don't get big lumps in between, and also I don't want gaps, so I'm making sure that what I'm doing, that there aren't any obvious gaps there. And turning it. So I keep doing this until I get the size that I want and the depth that I want. When you'll see at the end of this video, it is quite thick. I made it a little bit too thick, but I don't mind that. So I probably didn't need as much wool as I actually do put down, but that's okay, it's not a problem. So I'm just layering the first layer down, and using the same wool. At this point I'm not adding different colours or anything like that. I just thought it might be something different that you could do if you have, these things. And there I'm showing you another. Yeah, I've just pulled that little piece out, and you could see how smoothly that came out. It's really nice to use. I don't think that's merino wool, that the beige colour. I think it's something else. It's got a more textured feel to it. Now here I started to lay it in the other direction, and actually I changed my mind, because it's not a good idea to change direction in the first layer. You really want that first layer down, and then you can put the opposite direction on the next layer. Yeah, so there you go. I decided not to do it. Excuse me. Okay. It's not, I wouldn't recommend wet felting with this, and without the wool being carded. It just makes life harder. But I wanted that particular colour, and I didn't have any of the merino in that colour, and I wanted that background colour, so I decided that's what I was going to use. But I wouldn't have used it ordinarily in this way, while it's in this particular state, but because you can see it comes in sort of lumps, and that's not ideal. But it just shows you the process, hopefully. So because I'm making a journal cover, you need to remember when you're making a journal cover or anything that you're making, is that ordinarily your wool will shrink as it's going through the process of felting. Usually the shrinkage is fairly is a fair amount, so you're looking at anywhere between 40 and 50% shrinkage. At the end of this video, you'll see it hardly shrunk, and I'm not sure why. I'm thinking that it might be something to do with the fact that it isn't processed wool. I just don't know. I'm not sure why it didn't shrink. It did shrink a little bit, but it hasn't shrunk very much by the time I'd finished, well, at the end of the video. This video will be in two parts because I'm going to be needle felting in the second part, and also decorating it a little bit, embellishing it as well, and just sewing around it, making it finishing it off as a cover. So there will be a part two. So as I say, yeah, the wool will shrink. Ordinarily you will find it shrinks quite a lot. So when you lay your wool down, you need to take this into account. Make sure that you've got plenty for your project. It's big enough for your project. So I decide that this is going to be enough, and I will do with it whatever, however it turns out. I will use it to the size it is. As it turned out, it didn't shrink that much. So I've got quite a lot of wool down there. I probably didn't need to add much more of the creamy coloured wool. I'm just tidying the edges a little bit there, pulling them in. I haven't really seen other people wet felting do that. I tend to do it on most of the things that I've felted. If I felted a panel, I do tend to pull the sides in a little bit just to make them neater. But I haven't seen anybody else do that. But it's definitely worth you watching other videos, of people that do it regularly to get a much better tutorial and get some more ideas. So I'm not sure what I'm doing here. One of the things I think I realised was I forgot to get some netting. So when you get to this stage, I'm putting some warm soapy water over. So when you get to this stage, ideally you would have a piece of netting that would go over it, and that helps to hold the fibres in place when you're when you're doing your felting process, when you're doing the more vigorous felting. And I'm just putting some soap on my hands to lay down. Some people use a spray bottle. I didn't have one that was working. I had one, but it wasn't working. The spray part of it just broke, so I just used my hands and a sponge and just wet the wool down, just patting it down there. See, I do put quite a lot of water on. By the end it's soaking wet. If you use a spray bottle, you can control how much you're putting on a little bit better. So at this point I would have put the netting over, so that then when you pat it down, it does it won't come up on your sponge. The wool doesn't separate. You can keep it all together. As I say, I didn't think about it, and I couldn't find any quickly while I was doing this. So I'm just laying another layer of bubble wrap over the top, and I'm just going to press down to get all the water distributed across the whole of the piece. Yeah, it's looking very lumpy at this stage, but that is the nature of that particular wall. More water. Decide when you put your bubble wrap over the top, you can feel where your thicker pieces are, so you can go back and add more water or soap or whatever you need to. There is serious wet felters use olive oil soap, or that's recommended because it doesn't create as many suds. But this was fine for me. I didn't find it get overly, soapy. I'm just careful about how much I use. So there you saw me patting it down again, and I can see where there's a bit where it's not so, it needs a little bit extra putting in there. So it was obviously a bit of a gap there, or a bit less wool there. So I'm just adding pieces in where I feel it might be a bit thin. And keep going. Sticks to your fingers. Anyway, I hope everybody is well. I'm sorry I didn't say that at the beginning. It's a bit nerve-wracking doing it this way, but there were a few errors that I made, and when I first did the videos I decided to just do a voiceover, and I'd been meaning to do one anyway, just to get used to it. So I'm putting more soapy water on there. Ideally your water should be warm to hot, and I think by now mine's cooling. And now I'm adding some colour in, using various shades. Brown, and it looks like this is this is soy wool that I'm adding here. This is the brown soy. I'm just adding pieces, and then I add another layer of the creamy coloured wool over the top, but you can still see underneath the layers, you can see the colours coming through the different layers. So I think what I'm saying there is maybe I need to start in a different direction now, so the opposite direction. Yeah. This just helps the fibres to connect, and it's interesting when you see how wool connects together when it's wet and when you felt it. It's an interesting thing to see. If you see that magnified, they sort of hook onto each other. Probably this layer I didn't need to do. Yeah, I did need to do it, but it's so thick by this stage. The amount of wool that I've got there is a lot. But we'll see. Just mixing it up, putting different colours. As I say, it's definitely worth looking at other YouTube videos for tutorials. I put that colour down and I don't like it, so I take it back off again. It's a bit too dark. It's not what I'm looking for. And then I go for the gold, which is what I wanted. And this is merino wool. So there's a good mixture of wools there. Different types of wool. And if you use merino wool altogether as well, it's a much more, as I said, it's more controlled as you lay it down. And if you then decide to do, sort of create a, let's say, picture on it by using wool in different ways to create something like a flower or picture of some sort, you've got more control over it. And it can look really pretty. I'm just laying them down randomly, putting the bubble wrap over again, and then I'll be pressing it down a little bit, spreading the water out to the sides. That wouldn't happen if it was, if I had the netting over it. It wouldn't come up like that. Actually, it might stick to the netting. But that's when it starts to felt, it won't do that anymore. It's a fiddly job. And just adding little bits in different bits, different colours for interest. Oh, and there's a nice bit of curly wool that I'm putting in. Yeah, I mean, you can add all sorts of little, you could add all sorts of different fibres in there, and threads. So I'm using just interesting little pieces to go in. And I also then start to use, this is silk, so silk fibres, sticking to my fingers becomes a bit of a problem, but really pretty. And try to control it, and it just won't be controlled. Adding more water there. That's a different type of silk waste product there. It just won't stop sticking to my fingers. So I use water just to rinse it off. And I don't mind that random look. In the end, that's, what I'm looking for. No one said it's going to be easy. Yeah, so instead of building up a picture or a pattern I'm just placing bits down to embellish a little bit. And then at the very end, when it's dried, I'm going to do even more embellishing. But at this stage, I'm just adding some little extras. More water. And then pressing down again. I'm using a fair amount of pressure. It doesn't look like it, but yeah. I think probably at this stage I haven't got enough soap on. But yeah, that wasn't bad. It didn't stick to the bubble wrap, which is a good sign. So I'm rubbing. I'm firm, but rubbing. I'm not rubbing vigorously. I'm rubbing quite gently because you don't want to move the fibres around too much. You want them to stay where they are. But you do want to. At this stage, you want to just put some pressure on them. More water. Adding in a little bit more silk. And it doesn't get easier. Maybe could have done with a little bit more soap at this stage. But it's okay. It works out. More bubble wrap. So I'm going to get a little bit more vigorous here with the rubbing. Just pressing it down. Got quite a lot of water on there by now. So it's going to get very wet at one point. Just tucking in the edges, like I said before, to keep it neat. More rubbing. So I'm just flattening the fibres out at this stage, and over time you can start to become more vigorous with it. Just checking it. I mean, you're never going to get, straight edges on a piece of wet felting. It tends to go its own direction, but you can try and control it a little bit. It's worth doing to get a neat edge, a neatish edge anyway. More rubbing. Some people just use their bare hands on this, but I find bubble wrap really helps. And if you put a little bit of water and soap on the top, then your hand will rub nicely and freely over the bubble wrap anyway. So bubble wrap is facing down on top of the fabric. I realise that some wool got wet there. Now I think I'm here, I'm going to start rolling. Now I make a bit of a mistake here, and you'll see. And this was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the voiceover, because I couldn't add any text. And I realised when I watched it back that I made a mistake. So I'm rolling, just roll the felt piece in the bubble wrap around the tubing. If you haven't got the tubing, you could use a rolled up towel. You could even use a rolling pin, just whatever you have. A tea towel, something like that. And I didn't put a huge amount of pressure there. So the idea is that you would, roll it up like this, and about 20 rolls. And sometimes it wants to do its own thing, and you've just got to pull it back into position. And then roll it back out again, and then what you should be doing, is turning it anti-clockwise or clockwise, depending on which way you're going to go, and then rolling that, and then you will roll that 20 times. Or 25, whichever you choose, however many you choose, you could do it more. And then I should carry on. If I've started going anti-clockwise, I should then carry on going anti-clockwise, but I don't. I forget which way I went. And so I turn it back in the direction that I'd just done it on. And I do that twice. So, there you go. I turned it back to the way that I originally had it. So ideally you wouldn't do that. You would turn it anti-clockwise all the way around and do the 4 sides, and then turn it over and do the same on the other side as well. And just keep doing that. You can start to apply a bit more pressure after you've done this a few times. It's not going to harm it. And you can see the water's being pushed out. And there you go, I go back. I couldn't remember which way I'd gone. So I go back again to the bit that I'd done before. But it doesn't matter. It wasn't the end of the world. It's all, just happened. And then I correct it anyway by doing a lot more rolling later on off camera. But in the next part of the video, I do show you a bit more of the rolling technique, and then so I'm using the towel here as well. That just feels like you get a better grip. It feels more solid and also a bit more weight. So it's starting to come together a little bit now. It's soaking wet though. I think I'm putting more soap on here. Yeah. You can use hand soap as well, liquid soap, I mean, in the water and on your sponge. So I might be making a bit of a meal of this, to be honest. It doesn't really need to be this, pay this close attention to it. But I guess when you start doing something like this, it is good to pay attention to what's happening. And as I say, I haven't done it for a while, and I'm just remembering as I'm going along how I used to do it. So some people, as I said, use their hand. You can see the soap developing now. It should have had a bit more soap on earlier on, and the water should have been a bit warmer as well. It would have sped things up a little bit. But I had to replace the water with hot water again. So the soap that you can see is on the top of the bubble wrap, I think, but it's helping my hands to spread. Right now I'm turning it over so that soap gets distributed on the wall, and again doing the same thing. But it's easier on the hands having some soap on there. It's interesting when you watch something back like this and without the sound and adding sound to it. It's completely different. Makes it so there's the back, and you can see it's covered in twigs and things from the raw wool. Oops. And you do the that side as well, the same thing. So you do the rolling, and you do this, put this pressure on it, and yeah, I would have done the back a little bit more. I think I'm just showing you at this stage. So now we've come to, I turned the camera off so that I could carry on and it wasn't so boring for you to watch. So what I've been doing is I've been doing lots of rubbing and rolling over and over again. And then I took the piece to the sink and I rinsed it in hot water and then cold water alternatively, and alternating rather, and then rinsed it out again and brought it back, and then I think here I'm going to do some more rolling. So this is the second part of the video where I said I would roll it. You can see a quite a big difference in it now. It's looking like more like a felted piece. The back's still grubby. You're not going to be able to do much about that at this stage. I would like to get those pieces out because there are some on the front as well. And I think that I say something like I'm going to use a needle. You can be much more vigorous with this now. I'm showing you what it would look like as a book there. as a book cover rather. So you can be much more vigorous. Some people scrunch it up, and yeah, I'm showing you there, scrunch it up, and some people throw it onto the table. So they scrunch up in a ball and then throw it. I'm not doing that, but I am scrunching it up. When I do the put it under hot water, I do scrunch it up and then unscrunch and scrunch and unscrunch. And then so now I'm going to do a little bit more rolling. So it's what you're basically doing is agitating it. And I've got a different towel there because the towel was soaking wet, and this one gets just as wet. So yeah, I'm just doing the rolling again, and I do it properly this time. So turning it. Obviously, I've done a lot more rolling in between, so you just keep going. There's the only time to stop is when you feel that it's felted to how you want it to felt. Ideally, you won't be able to pick up any fibres from the top of it, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'll show you once you've done the rolling how that looks. Yeah, I'm showing you there. So you can't pick off the fibres, they're firmly attached when it's done, but you could keep going for longer even then, just to get it really, really nice and tight. So yeah. But it's looking good, it's getting there. It needs a little bit more work, and I'll be putting it back into hot water, scrunching it up again, wringing it out. So all of that's pulling on the fibres and then pushing them back into place, and then pulling them and pushing them back into place. And it all helps for them to interlock, interconnect. But I'm happy with it. It's looking good. But I think what I decide to do, and I might at this point, can't remember if I've said, but I'm happy with how it looks. But what I want to do is dry it, do some more work on it, and then dry it, and then I think I'm going to needle felt it. And that's how it would look. That's how I want it to look. And I do quite like those uneven edges. I think it's quite nice to have that. So, but I will be embellishing it more with some more silk, some more bits of wool, by needle felting them in once it's dried. And I will add that to this recording at the end. So you see the end product. But yeah, I'm happy with it so far. Going to do a bit more rolling, I think. It's quite a thick piece. I don't normally make them that thick, but that's okay. As I said, it was different because I used raw wool. The other thing I've made with wet felt is I've made balls, and I use them around my house. I've got two, a small one that I have on my desk here every day, and another one that I have on my bedside table that I use as a little, sort of vessel to hold things. You could make vases, all sorts of things. Hello again. So I'm back again. The panel is dry and it's very lumpy, in a way that I haven't had in any of my previous projects. I do love how this has sort of shown up more now that it's dry. I love these textures. What I'm going to do now is do some needle felting using the needles. So this is an example of one of the needles. You can get them in different sizes. So you can get them, this one for example is very fine, and this one's much thicker. Hopefully you can see that. That one looks a bit rusty actually, but I have had them a long time. Broken ones should be thrown out, but yeah, so I'm using a thicker one for this because it's a thick wool. This is a handle that you can use if you want to, and these are protectors for your finger and thumb, but I'm not going to be using them today. There's a handle there. So I'm just going to use this. Now I really like this effect. This will be the front of the I'll just cut that bit off. I don't want that hanging over the edge, and I'll tidy it up as much as possible. And I'll be pulling out some of the bits of vegetation but like I say, it is very thick in some places, and ideally that, but it's a journal cover, it doesn't matter, it's not like it's a piece of something you're going to wear. So I have this lovely blue, and I wondered whether some of this might be, this is definitely a Hobbycraft colour, and I think this blue will look lovely in here. So I'm going to add little bits in here and there, and I'm just going to, sort of put them down, but in a sort of a pattern. Oh, I forgot to say, so I use these sponges. I can't remember where I got them from, probably off Amazon, and you can buy them, and I have quite a few because I used to do classes. But needle felting is a really, really enjoyable felting process. I'm going to go around. That is very sturdy to get through, so that could break a needle, so I'm going to have to be careful. The wool isn't too bad, but by needle felting it will come together even more, and it will sort of flatten it out a little bit more. It will hopefully get rid of some of those bumps, not completely, but but I do quite like the idea of having this blue in here as well. So I'm going to add that, and you will see, I mean, it is thick, so it should come through the back after a while. But yeah, really happy with it. I'll add a little bit more blue. I'll probably add some more silk, but I'm not entirely sure. I just love this, how it all came together. I think I will add this maybe here. It's easier to do it in circles than anything else. So you can hear it. That's a really pretty colour. As I say, I think this is, when you buy from Hobbycraft, you buy in like packs of 6, I think. I think you can buy them individually as well, but if you get a pack of 6, then you'll get different colours in them, so you can, have a play with different colours, and you don't get a lot, but well, that's the size. That's not a bad amount to start with. But this is very coarse wool. It's not like the merino, which is very, very soft, but it's still nice to work with and very easily to needle felt with. Very easy, rather, not easily. So I'm just pushing the fibres in. These needles have barbs on them, so when you push it in, the barbs pull the fibres out, back and forth like that, and that's how it works. Just going to push them down a little bit. Love it, absolutely love it. Really happy with it so far. As I say, I'm going to try and take out some of these pieces of vegetation. Just makes me laugh. And then if I needle felt back into the piece where it's come from, then you won't see them being pulled up. And there's little black hairs, there's all sorts of stuff in here. But you know, it's all part of the fun, part of using natural materials. You know, I mean, I was looking at doing a project with natural materials, you know, using things that I pick up in nature. And this is, look, see that piece there? You know, this is probably one of the ultimates. When you push a needle in, you want to, I always have my finger that there, so that when I push it in, it's going no further. It just, you know, stops it from going any further in. And also you want to make sure that you're pushing down like that, not on an angle like that. You want to be pushing straight down. It is really well felted already, so all I'm doing is just evening things out a little bit and maybe adding bits. Like that blue, I think it's so pretty. I can feel lumps. That's thin there, so I should ideally add something there. So that's thin, but I'm not too worried. It's not, maybe add some of this. Oh, this has already been felted by the feel of it, but let's have a little look. Yeah, I can see that's quite thin there, so I'm going to add some of this. Very relaxing. You can do this while you're watching TV, as long as you don't have your fingers in the way and jab yourself. And it's very painful when you do jab yourself, I can tell you that right now. I'm going to just turn that over and put some of this underneath. You can see that's full of stuff. I'm not too worried about the back because I may well cover the back. Yeah, if you jab yourself it really hurts, so watch your fingers. This is just strengthening it. It won't fully meld into the piece in the same way that it would if it was wet felted or if it was completely needle felted, because you're dealing with two different types of felting, but it is going to help just to, you know, help that stay a bit stable. And what I'm thinking about what I could do with, so you can see that it's quite, I could probably pull that off at any point. I don't think it's ever going to be truly incorporated in, but you know, I'm giving it a go. Just gonna see if I can get that little bit out. I don't want to bend that too much because it will break. There we go, it's pulling out. But just the fact that, you know, the wool isn't coming away very easily is a good sign. That looks horrendous, but it's just a piece of, looks like blood. Are you allowed to say blood on YouTube? I don't think you are. There's another piece. It's coming away quite easily actually, relatively easy, these pieces. As I say, you probably won't even see them. I'm just going to needle felt this a bit more. This was melting in a little bit better because it's a merino. Again, you can get all of the supplies you need for this off Amazon or from a craft shop. But you know, look at the prices, because you shouldn't have to pay a fortune for them, you know. So look and see, have a shop around. I can feel it's quite lumpy bumpy there. So this is the way that I would work with it. Get some of this, a little bit more of this down. I could add other colours in. I might add some, oh, that's really grubby. All of it is actually. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put some of this curly wool in there. Hope you can see what I'm doing. I love this curly wool. It's more expensive when you buy it. I have a small amount in a dark brown somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. It's not with the rest of the fibres that I have. So as I say, you could use all sorts of different things, you know, threads. You could sew it. I'm thinking of sewing it, but I just wanted to show you this process, and then I will leave it for, you know, until tomorrow, because it's time's getting on, and I will then you know, do some more work on it. So that's nicely incorporated in. That bit is bothering me. Thinking that I'm going to just snip a little bit off there, and then I will needle felt that together so it doesn't look like it's obviously being cut. I might have to, oh no, it's actually quite robust. Yeah, it's not too bad. This area needs some work. It's very thick. And this is the silk, so it's a bit harder to get through. So this is what I'll be doing. I'll be going around it. I'll be adding more blue into it. I just think that really looks beautiful, that blue. I'll do a little bit more on camera, and then I'll finish off and do it off camera, but I just wanted you to see it at this stage. It's lovely soft blue. Shall I put some down here? I'm just doing circles because it's the easiest thing to do. Trying to think of other things. Yeah, so I could put some more silk in. I might put some more silk. I could add threads. I could add pieces of fabric by sewing them on. Buttons, all sorts of things. Love that. Okay, add a little bit of the blue up here. Maybe a larger circle. It doesn't have to be circles, but this is what I'm doing. I will show you the finished piece, and I will be making a journal, you know, with it, a journal cover with it. So that's very soft, whereas this is a little bit more darker. It's beautiful colour. Just looking to see where else that isn't symmetrical. So I can't put it. Maybe here. Yeah, I think here. There. Or there. Let's put a little bit. I don't want to overwhelm it with this blue because it stands out. I don't want it to be the, you know, the star, as it were. I could make it into a spiral. I didn't think about that, but I'm not going to. Too much? No. So that's going to be the front, and the back is equally lovely, which is what you want, really. Oh, I love it. It's going to be a thick book, mind you. Right, I'll just finish this bit off and then I'll let you go, and I will show you it as a finished piece. Decide what we're going to do on the inside. And that probably needs a bit more work. You can pull it up, look, you don't want to be able to pull it up. So I might put a button or two on. So yeah, I just wanted to show you how it's just gorgeous. I'm so happy with it. Really happy with it. It's beautiful, and I hope you like it. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you very soon. Take care.